Some secrets can feel like a heavy weight on your chest, building up with every unspoken thought. Today, I'm finally ready to share what this pressure has been doing to me. At 60 years old, something unexpected happened that made me feel more alive than ever before. It all started one morning when the hot water in my bathroom suddenly stopped working. The broken faucet and my messed up daily routine reminded me of how stuck I felt in a cycle of loneliness, silence, and the same old habits ever since my husband passed away. When something in the house broke, I was left to call someone to fix it. I picked a plumber randomly from the phone book, and when I spoke to Otis, the young man on the other end, his deep, calm voice intrigued me. I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just a minor issue with the faucet, but everything changed when he arrived. The moment I opened the door, I was struck by the vibrant energy Otis brought with him. He casually dropped his toolbox at the entrance and asked me to show him where the bathroom was. I hesitated for a moment, but then gestured for him to follow me down the hallway. If you want to hear the rest of this surprising story, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Stay tuned until the end, because things are about to take a strange turn. As I led him to the bathroom, I couldn't help but notice his impressive physique. His muscles were clearly defined through his shirt. I found myself staring longer than I meant to, something I hadn't experienced in a long time. When he stepped inside the bathroom, Otis moved confidently, as if he wasn't just fixing a faucet, but unlocking a door to a part of my life that had been closed off for years. "Is this the faucet?" he asked, eyeing the old fixture. I answered with a nervous, "Yeah," surprised at my own feelings. Why was I so anxious? It was just a repair job. After a brief moment of silence, he returned to his work. His professionalism helped me regain my composure a bit, but I couldn't shake off the flirtatious side of me. "Want some coffee after you finish the repairs?" I asked, trying to steer the conversation in a different direction. "I have an amazing coffee machine, and people say my coffee is really good." He paused briefly, his shoulders tightening as he regarded me, as if considering something. "Thanks, but I have a busy schedule today and need to leave as soon as I'm done," he replied. While I couldn't help but feel a little let down, it was clear that Otis preferred to keep things strictly professional. Perhaps that's what made him even more interesting. He took his job seriously and maintained that professionalism despite his youth. As Otis wrapped up his work, I noticed him stealing glances at me a few times. Those looks seemed to contain a mix of attraction, curiosity, and a bit of hesitation. "All done," he announced as he hoisted his toolbox onto his shoulder. "The hot water should be working just fine now. If you have any issues, just give me a call." "I definitely will," I replied, grasping the doorframe for support. "Thanks for getting it done so quickly. I guess being young has its perks." This time, he offered me a slight smile, yet he maintained his professional demeanor. As he walked toward the door, he hesitated for a second, as if he wanted to say something more, but he simply nodded and left. I couldn't shake the feeling that a connection was developing between us, something that probably shouldn't be happening, yet felt undeniable. For the first time in a long while, my heart was racing. I wondered if this was just about plumbing problems, or if this young guy had come into my life to change things for me. The next morning, when I stepped into the bathroom for a shower, I realized the faucet was still only giving out cold water. I can't recall ever feeling so delighted by a malfunction before. My hand trembled slightly as I searched for Otis's number in my contacts. My heart raced while the phone rang. "Hey, Otis," I said, adding a hint of urgency to my voice. "I think the faucet you fixed yesterday is acting up again. I'm really sorry, but could you come back?" His voice was as professional as ever, but I could sense a moment of hesitation before he replied, "Sure, I'll bring some spare parts with me this time so we can fix it for good. I'll be there in about an hour." I thanked him, and as I hung up, a strange wave of excitement washed over me. This time, I wanted to be somewhat ready, but I also wished to come across as relaxed and casual. While sifting through my closet, my fingers found their way to my favorite black lace nightgown. I told myself it was just a comfortable choice, but I could see in the mirror that I was trying to convince myself of something that wasn't entirely true. When the doorbell chimed, I took a deep breath and opened the door to reveal Otis. For just a brief moment, his eyes flicked over my figure, but he quickly composed himself. He was carrying a tool bag and a few pipes. "Hey," I greeted him, acting as if my outfit was completely normal. "I hope it's not too much trouble. This faucet has been driving me nuts." Otis avoided looking me directly in the eye and made his way toward the bathroom. "No problem," he replied. "I'll fix it for good this time." I followed him into the bathroom, noticing how he bent down to get to work on the faucet. I was drawn to his movements. His hands were quick and skilled, but there's a hint of tension in his posture. "Does this kind of thing happen to you often?" I asked, trying to break the silence. The soft fabric of my nightgown lightly grazed my skin, making me feel a little more daring. "Do the things you fix ever break again?" "Sometimes," he replied without looking up. "But I'm confident it'll be fine this time. I've got all the parts I might need right here." I smiled slightly and said, "You're really careful. It's clear you're good at your job for someone your age." As my hand reached for the faucet, I accidentally brushed against his arm. He stiffened for a moment, but quickly returned to his task without meeting my gaze. I could sense the tension between us. "I'm just trying to do my job," he said, his voice lower than before. We fell into a silence for a bit, and his distant vibe made me feel bolder. Leaning over to examine a pipe underneath the faucet, I subtly placed my hand on his back. "It's hard to find someone as skilled as you," I said, trying to keep the mood light. Otis straightened and looked at me, and I could see conflict in his eyes, uncertainty mixed with a struggle to maintain control. "Sarah," he said, almost as if he was reminding himself of boundaries, "I just need to finish this. After that, I won't bother you anymore." Despite his firm tone, I noticed a crack in his composure. Watching him try to distance himself stirred something within me, an excitement and a longing I hadn't experienced in a while. I could feel the tension building between us, and it was clear we were reaching a tipping point. Who would dare to cross that line was up to us. As he leaned in to fix the faucet, I leaned against the cabinet nearby, fully aware of how my nightgown clung to my body with every small movement, creating a decidedly alluring pose. Otis was trying to act like he wasn't paying attention, but I noticed his hands shaking a little. That little tremble showed me he wasn't just battling me, he was battling himself. "Are you sure you know what you're doing?" I asked, teasing him lightly. He kept his head down while he worked, but his breathing got a bit faster. "Of course," he replied quickly. "This is easy." I stepped a little closer to him. "If it's easy, then why does it break every few days?" I bent down as if I was going to grab a towel from the cabinet, and in the process, the thin strap of my nightgown slipped off my shoulder. Wearing it made me feel bold. When Otis looked up, his eyes lingered on me for a moment before he hurried back to his task. Yet, he seemed to be working faster, eager to finish. "Maybe there's something else in the bathroom causing the issue," he suggested, his voice a little shaky as he tightened the faucet. "Or maybe it's just about finding the right touch," I responded, letting my words hang in the air. The silence that followed felt heavy, thick with tension in the small bathroom. After a moment, Otis put down his tools and stood up slowly, his expression a mix of control and a strong desire. He was trying to hold back. I moved even closer, closing the gap between us to just a few inches, and I could hear him breathing. "Otis," I whispered. But before I could say more, he had his hands on my waist. The tension between us grew with every second, and I could feel that something was about to change. Our silence was only interrupted by our breathing and racing hearts. "Sarah, we shouldn't do this," he said, his voice shaky and filled with uncertainty. "Are you sure?" I leaned in closer, and in that moment, he seemed to lose his hesitation and unexpectedly kissed me. Our kiss started off slow, tentative, but quickly turned into something passionate, as if we were both letting go. With our eyes closed, we lost ourselves in each other as he pulled me closer. Before long, we were moving towards the bedroom, bumping into walls along the way, our hands tangled together and hearts racing. Everything felt wild and exhilarating, and I could sense that things were changing rapidly between us. As we entered the bedroom, Otis wrapped his arms tightly around my waist. Without thinking twice, I started moving faster, almost pulled along by him. Everything unfolded so quickly that I barely had time to understand what was happening. My thoughts were still whirling, while my body felt like it had given in to the moment. It was a confusing mix of feelings, something that felt wrong, yet also seemed beyond my control. Once we were in the bedroom, chaos erupted around us. Otis's t-shirt had ended up in the bathroom. His pants lay crumpled on the floor beside the bed, and my light nightgown had somehow made its way to the hallway, trailing along the carpet. Everything was a jumble, and despite the mess, we couldn't seem to settle down. We found ourselves lying on the bed, completely intertwined, our bodies still connected as if they were meant to be. Each breath we took seemed to echo the other, creating a moment that felt suspended in time. It was hard to put my feelings into words. I felt overwhelmed, like I was adrift in a vast ocean. Otis's strong arms held me close, and even with my eyes shut, I could hear everything around us. "Can you breathe?" I asked with a small smile, resting my head against his chest. My hands remained on him, noticing how he moved beneath my touch. "Yes," he replied, his voice shaky but resolute. "I guess I can, but I've never felt anything like this before." A brief silence fell between us, and I noticed his breathing had quickened. I couldn't ignore it. "Really?" I murmured, my lips brushing against his. "So, what do we do now, Sarah?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling the weight of our situation. Everything seems so complicated. He gently ran his fingers through my hair and said, But one thing is certain, having you here with me means more than anything else. In that moment, everything felt so significant. I lost track of time as everything around me became a blur. I was simply enjoying the moment. Suddenly, clarity swept over me, and I started to wonder if what I was experiencing was just a moment of craziness or something deeper. With a small smile, I asked Otis how we could explain this feeling. He paused for a moment, his eyes showing hesitation, but also a strong desire. Finally, he said, "I don't think we need to explain it. Sometimes things just are." We lay close together on the bed, our breaths intertwined, completely lost in the magic of the moment. However, a question kept spinning in my mind. Was this just a fleeting moment of madness, or could it be the start of something significant? Looking deeply into Otis's eyes, I asked, "How do you think this ends, Otis? Haven't you given it any thought?" After a little more consideration, Otis took a deep breath and replied, "Let's think about it later." Then he gently ran his fingers through my hair. "Right now, let's just enjoy this moment." A mix of emotions swirled inside me, but one thing was clear. This moment was extraordinary. No matter what the future held, this night would be ours, unforgettable and unique. Then there was silence, but it didn't feel empty. It felt like a chance to reflect, to understand not just what had happened, but what could come next. If you're still with me, I know you're invested in this story. There's so much more to reveal, and you won't want to miss any of it. So, make sure to hit that follow button, turn on notifications, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear what you think, so let's chat.